Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them, or at least the people who play them. But that's not me, and that's not the 1,661 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. Wow, we blew past 1,650, past 1,660, and are ever closer to that ridiculous 1,700 sub number, which, hey, maybe we can get there by the end of this year, maybe even sooner. Thank you all so much. And for today's video, I thought I'd go back to the well again for gaming franchises that I have zero experience with. And I am very generous with the amount of experience I give myself. So for instance, if I play 5 minutes of Blaster Master on the NES, there you go, kicking that franchise out of there. So every single one of these games I have legitimately played 0 minutes of. So which ones are they? Let's find out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, and like last time, the unfortunate reality is a lot of these games are going to be, because I haven't played them, I don't necessarily have a visual aid to show you. But I do have some that I do. So let's start off here with a series that had a lot of controversy with the last iteration that came out. And it started off, I want to say, in the PS2 original Xbox era. I always thought of it as an Xbox series, but I guess there is a PS2 version. And that was Star Wars Battlefront. Now, it's funny, I don't have any experience with the Battlefield series either, but I have zero with the Star Wars Battlefront. And with any of the ones on the Xbox, any of the ones that came out once Star Wars was purchased. Now, I've heard good things about the old ones, and to be honest, even the new ones I've heard good things about, but unfortunately, the microtransactions became the far bigger story, especially with the new Star, which again, why I hate when they reboot a series and they just start naming it from the beginning again, because there's Star Wars Battlefront, Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the Xbox, and then I think there's Star Wars Battlefront and then Star Wars Battlefront 2 on the Xbox One era. And I know that was the one where allegedly you would have to play for 80 hours before you could unlock a lightsaber or Luke Skywalker or something like that. And not all about that life, but let me know. Are these games worth playing now? I know they did a lot to improve the experience. I've had several friends that have enjoyed the series. My buddy Rewind Mike enjoyed it. But it just hasn't really appealed to me. Not just because I'm kind of off the Star Wars train, but just in general, those massive multiplayer arena type things just really don't appeal to me all that much. Which will come to the next one, which, surprisingly enough, I played PUBG, I played H1Z1, but I never tried Fortnite. I never played Fortnite before they changed it to the Battle Royale method, which is what I originally read it as, which was the base building kind of tower defense type game, which, hey, for you, those of you who played Fortnite, did you know that it was originally developed as a completely different game? And then once, I think it was PUBG, once PUBG came out, then they repurposed it to be the Fortnite that everyone knows now, which is a battle royal where you can build stuff. And I think even the building is kind of becoming a little passe for a lot of people. But it just never appealed to me. It looked too cartoony. I had my fill with PUBG. I'm not a big PC online game person. I suck with a mouse and keyboard. Yes, it came out onto consoles down the line. It just never really piqued my interest. I guess this is kind of the line in the sand where, all right, I am the old man in the room. It's funny, when I was with Acura, I remember so many times customers' children playing it, wasting money on it, and trying to be the guy giving advice like, listen, son, you don't want to spend $20 on a cosmetic costume because it looks cool to your friends. Spend that $20 on another game. But hey, I digress. Still, you know, it's one of those things where I kind of regret not jumping in on the hype because I like to be familiar with these trends, like even Among Us. Like I played Among Us just to know what it's like. Or I've played, even when I did PUBG, I like to, or Overwatch. I like to know what these trends are like just because I'm, you know, being a lifelong gamer, there's a reason why people are playing these. But Fortnite just never appealed to me at all. Which, hey, maybe if I had, I'd be a successful Fortnite streamer with millions of mansions. But it is what it is. Moving on to another train, a game series that I don't have a visual aid for as well. It's got 6 versions, not accounting, I'm sure, expansions. Another PC game that is on consoles all the way back to, I want to say, the Super NES even. And as someone who loves Risk, it is very surprising, especially when I tell other people that I haven't played this, and especially when you hear I love tactical games, and that is Civilization. So I've not played any Civilization, not Civ 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. The closest I got to buying it was I tried to buy a copy of Civilization 6 on an auction site recently. Didn't get it. And I remember in college, my buddy Alexi, I've spoken of him before, he played a lot of Civ 2. In fact, if I remember, he stopped playing World of Warcraft to play Civ 2. And one of the really interesting things about it was the fact that you could be playing an online game and then you'd have to wait for hours until the person takes their turn. So it's almost like how you see in movies or things where people play chess via phone or via email, where the guy's sitting there with a chessboard out there and then he gets a message that says, oh, rook to king 9, and then he moves it. And I always imagine that with waiting for people to play Civilization, is you're just chilling there, the next day your thing ping. I'm sure it doesn't take that long, but it pings and then you can make your move. And it's funny, it always sounded interesting to me as far as, wow, you can evolve from cavemen to the Roman Empire to alien races or all this crazy things you can do. But whenever I've seen the visuals for it, which, yes, I know, don't judge it based on the visuals, but whenever I've seen it, it looks like a hexagon with a guy's face on it. And from the way it was explained, I expected more than that. And it's still something I probably really enjoy. But there you go. That's another one that really is probably, of all the games I'm going to talk about, one that I should give a shot to. I just haven't. Now, here's a fairly recent one that just had another game come out in the series. Unfortunately, Square Enix got a Square Enix, and they get rid of a turn-based system when they didn't have to. And that is the Valkyrie Profile series. And yes, this is a recent pickup. I've been wanting this forever. Got a great deal on it. Although the manual is missing a page, it's got a crack on the case, whatever, the discs are clean. And I also have a copy of Valkyrie Profile 2, because with a lot of these expensive PS1 games, the sequels are getting expensive too, so I try and pick those up when I can. And I got a copy of Valkyrie Elysium off Woot, of all things. I've never bought a game off Woot. I got it for like $15, $18, something like that. Which, hey, if you have Amazon Prime, you have free shipping on Woot. Yeah. Weird site. Anyways, this was a game series that I've actively been pursuing, and I want to play it. I just haven't ever had a shot. Really one of those ones I learned of as I started getting into collecting, and especially when you look up PS1 hidden gems, you see Vagrant Story, Vandal Hearts, but you see Valkyrie Profile. There's a lot of V-titled games on the PS1 that are very good. Not any other. I think they got the strongest V-lettered games of any catalog, and Valkyrie Profile is definitely one that I would like to check out. I'm a big fan of Norse mythology. It's one of the reasons why I love the God of War series, the newer ones. And and there's a book called Age of Odin that's very good too if you're into that kind of thing. But I digress. Valkyrie Profile looked very interesting. It seems very dark and not your typical turn-based RPG, but still keeps to the roots of it. Haven't looked into Valkyrie Profile 2 that much, and from what I've read of Valkyrie Elysium, I'm probably not going to like it all that much. It looks like another standard bullet spongy actiony game like Nier or like Bayonetta or any of these platinum type games, but it might be interesting. But yes, that's one I would love to dive in more. Another series that is of that era started on the Sega CD, I want to say, or maybe even the TurboGrafx. I can't remember, but in the States it was on the Sega CD, and then they got a port to the PS1 by Working Designs. I only have the sequel, is the Lunar series. Now, I'd like to pick up the other versions of it, and that's part of the reason why I haven't started on it, is I have 2, which once again, I got a screaming deal on that one. I think I picked up that whole complete in box for $100. Not sure how I did it. One of those lucky auctions that you come across every once in a blue moon. But I have not popped it in because even though you don't have to start with the second game, I'm like that. It's very hard for me to jump into the middle of a series. The few times I've done it in my life, I've liked it. Like I did it with Mass Effect 2, but then I've never played Mass Effect 1. And that's even a video idea I have in general too, is to talk about game series where I've done that. So I won't talk about too many more of them. But yeah, Lunar, just another one of those games that he's on the pile. Another solid RPG turn-based game that I'm likely going to love. A little bit more of a traditional type, not like Valkyrie Profile. That one seems a little bit more interesting as far as the change up to the combat. So we'll check that out someday. And then another one back to the Xbox era that has a remake right now, I believe. I think there's a remake or a re-release, or the remake got canceled. I don't know. People go crazy for these games, and that is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. I've heard 2 is the better one. No experience with these. These are BioWare games, back when BioWare was allowed to make games that were good. Fortunately, that's no longer the case. Everyone remember Anthem. And I would like to check these out. I just have no interest in playing it on the Xbox. I desperately need to get an Xbox Series X so that I can play some of these things, because I have an old school Xbox. I found it at a thrift store for maybe 20 bucks 5 or 6 years ago, and it doesn't work all that great, which is probably why it was in a thrift store. And I don't like the controllers. I don't like the Duke, but even the smaller controllers, I just don't have the patience for it. I don't know. I'd rather play it on a modern console because it's available now, and that's part of the problem. Is like, oh, you can play it on the modern one? Oh, let's wait till the modern one. Do you have the modern one? Well, no. I'm not going to spend money on a console that I don't need. And there you go. But I've heard these games are great. I've heard these are really, really solid games, and I wish I cared more about Star Wars and Jedi fantasy as far as doing that, because going through Jedi Fallen Order was such a pain because I just did not care whatsoever. I forgot to mention this in that one, but part of the problem is that at least in the original trilogy, lightsabers seemed incredible. That if you touched something with it, it was just instant. Like a guy got his arm cut off. Luke got his hand cut off. Like, these things were so dangerous. When you're playing in a video game, just because of the nature of it, unless you're playing against something like Bushido Blade, or unless you don't give someone a lightsaber, you hit people and nothing happens. So I'm hitting guys over and over again, and then they just fall over. Like, no, I want to hit them with a lightsaber and see them get cut in half and just get the most brutal, destructive gore I've ever seen in a game. If I'm using a lightsaber, that's what should happen. I mean, that's the reason the prequels used droids instead of people, because yeah, that'd be pretty freaking intense for a children's movie. But yeah, I digress. All right, another series that I have zero experience with, which is not surprising, because this was kind of the tip of the spear to the Sony insults of my Nintendo fanboy lore. And even though I got a PlayStation and I loved some of the games, there was still that part of me that was like, screw Sony, how dare they go outside Nintendo and scream on a bullhorn about how they suck. And the main guy who did that was their old mascot, Crash Bandicoot, which I do have. I have Crash Bandicoot 1, 3, and then a PS2 one. So I don't have the second one. I don't have 4. I've tried to pick up 4 before. Just haven't gotten around to it. And not played any of them. Not played any of them. Purely because just didn't look that interesting. Really, it's funny. I love everything Naughty Dog has done after that, pretty much. At least up until The Last of Us. But before that, just Crash did not appeal to me. I didn't like his look. He had way too much tood. It seemed like they were trying to be... I really get over the trying to be cool for cool's sake. Instead, you just look like Poochie from The Simpsons, where it's like, okay... yeah, go off to your home planet, bro. But I've heard these games are really good, and when Crash 4 came out, and when they did the Insane trilogy, it was nice to see him come back. And it's just one of those things where I've been sitting on it. I will try them eventually. I'd like to get the second one on the PS1, probably the greatest hits version, just so they can all be uniform. And I'd like to pick up the fourth one. But let me know, which one would be a good starting point? Should I play the Insane trilogy? Should I start with the old ones? Bear in mind, I have a RetroTink 5X, and it looks great on my TV, so it's not going to be about visual fidelity. The old ones I actually prefer the look of than some of these remakes. Alright, then another one that I have had hounding me my whole life, it seems like. I've just never played it. Much in the way I was trying not to play World of Warcraft. The game that came out before that was Diablo. And I did not play the first... I honestly didn't hear much about the first one when it came out. But Diablo 2 was everywhere. Everywhere. My buddy David was playing it. When I got to college, my college roommate was playing it all night, and every day, all day long, I would hear this. Homeboy sounded like he was jacking off his mouse. That's how fast and furious he was pounding that thing. And I guess that is typical for what you're doing in it. I don't know, but like I said, I don't know. And then Diablo 3 came out in like 2011 or 2012, and I was doing a show called The Producers, and I remember the head stage manager was asking me, "Hey, are you going to be playing Diablo 3?" Because he knew I was a gamer, and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And now Diablo 4 just came out, and it's funny, at least with Diablo 3 and Diablo 4, the games come out and everyone's saying it's the greatest game ever made, and then within a month and a half, it typically happens with Blizzard fanboys, they start saying it sucks. And I think it's not as strong with Diablo 4. I think Diablo 4 has been a better game, but that seems to be what's happening again, as people are starting to bitch and moan about it. Am I wrong? If I was going to try any of them, I probably would want to try Diablo 2, because I think that's still the one people talk the most highly about. But as it is a PC game first and foremost, I just don't enjoy playing games that way. I know they have console ports. I think they did a remastered version of Diablo 2 that I had planned on checking out. I just, the newborn, I never got around to it. But let me know which one. I picked up this PS1 version of it very recently too, because it's one of those more sought after collectible games, and it had a decent price at my local game store, so I picked it up. And I might start with that one. Who knows? Might start with that one. All right. Now, another series that started in the arcades and got some famous ports to the Super Nintendo would be the Final Fight series. So I have Final Fight 1 and I have Final Fight 2, which, yes, I got a big discount on it because the cartridge has this weird, looks like a cigarette burn. Like, what do people do with these? And then the other one has John Dawkins. Like, thank you, John Dawkins. I have your copy. Hopefully your work in Predator didn't go unknown. That was Hawkins. So Final Fight. Final Fight I've never played. I was a Streets of Rage person. So it's funny. I would find a series and then I would stick to it. And Final Fight always just looked like a lesser Streets of Rage to me. Even like the character Cody clearly looked like Axel. Now I could be way off. Streets of Rage could have came out after Final Fight, and they could have been ripping off the other, but in my perception, that's the way it was. And you know how it is when you're a kid. Once you make up your mind on something, it's very hard to change it. And I didn't even know the Super NES version of Final Fight didn't allow you to play two-player. That's something they did for Final Fight 2. And I think Final Fight 2 was made for the Super NES originally, and not the arcade, and it was converted. I don't know. And there's Final Fight Guy and Mighty Final Fight, all this. There's a lot of Final Fight, and then it disappeared until they came out with one in the PS2 era that is better left forgotten, from what I've heard. But yeah, that's another one. I mean, it's a beat-em-up. It just looked like a beat 'em up. I love Hagar, even though I've never played it. Hagar is badass. The fact that you have a mayor who could go out and body slam people. It's kind of the appeal of when Jesse Ventura and Arnold Schwarzenegger became governors. Like, yeah, my governor can beat the hell out of yours. Ha ha ha. All right, and then moving on to one that I was going to talk about in the last video. I just decided not to for some reason, but we're going to talk about it here, is the Fable series. So I only have Fable 3. I can't remember how I picked this up. I want to say it was at a thrift store. That's typically how I got a lot of my PS2, Xbox, and even some of my 360 stuff was I'd find it at a thrift store for $2, $3, which I'm definitely glad I picked up because it's hard to find anything that cheap now unless it's a PS4 game. Not too familiar with it. The only thing of recent note I've heard about Fable is that they're making a new version, and they made the new version. There was some controversy if they made the main protagonist intentionally ugly, which I guess is the trend they've been doing. I know they did that with Mass Effect Andromeda as well. From what it looks like, it was one of the Xbox's only exclusives, and there was a new version of it supposed to come out. I can't remember if it was like Fable Unlimited or Fable something. It wasn't Fable 4. It was supposed to come out during the Xbox One, and this was when they were canceling all their exclusives. They canceled Scalebound, they canceled the new Fable, and it really just, if Xbox wanted to lose the console war, they did such a good job of doing it that, one of the only things, at least for myself, one of the only reasons to have a certain console is the exclusives. And yes, now they're doing it by buying developers and pissing everyone off by making games exclusive that way, which I'm not opposed to. Because that gives me a reason to buy it. I'm okay with that. I know people say it's anti-consumer, but you got to realize that competition is good for all industries. And at the end of the day, I get it. A lot of people who use PC, they are entitled. They feel like they have the lay of the land to play anything the way they want it. But you do not want to have just publishers on the same platform. In my opinion, I could be way off here, but I like that Nintendo's Nintendo. I like that Sony's Sony, and I like that Xbox has its exclusives too. Am I happy about them buying Activision Blizzard? I don't know. I don't know, because Microsoft hasn't run things the best, but I'm happier they have it than EA, because anything EA's ever bought has just been buried. So time will tell on that one. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Fable. All right, another one on the PS2. Now, this kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of PS2 games. Like I always say, I really missed a lot of that generation. But there was games that kind of were the mascot games. So there's things like Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper. I haven't played those either, but I have a visual aid for Jak and Daxter. So I kind of confuse Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter all the time. To be honest, I still don't really know what the difference is. They look identical to me. But I think this is the one where you're playing as Jak and Daxter. And yeah, so please tell me what the difference is. I think Ratchet and Clank is the one that has the crazy weapons, but this one looked like it has crazy weapons too. I mean, it clearly looked like a wannabe Banjo-Kazooie when I first saw it, because I think the first one came out in the early 2000s, and this is what Naughty Dog did after Crash Bandicoot, so it just seemed in line with, you know, moving their trajectory. It's really funny. I missed a lot of, until they did Uncharted, Naughty Dog really did not appeal to me. All right, and getting down to the last couple here. So one that I did want to play, and only kind of a fart in the wind. It had 2 games on the PS1 and then disappeared until they made a remake, was the Medieval series. And I do have it on the PS1, but I only have case and disc. I'm missing a manual, so if any of you guys have an extra manual, let me know. I'll buy it off you. And from what I've heard, and I have it on PSP too, so I found the PSP version at a thrift store. This one I got in that lot of PS1 games when I got Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and it just was one of the ones that didn't have a case or anything. And I found a case for like $5. It was pretty cool. Still waiting for that manual. A cool Halloween game. Looked similar to the Maximo games, or Soul Reaver, things of that nature. Always interested in putting more time into it, just haven't. Maybe I will this Halloween. That'd be fun to play. Maybe I'll do like a Halloween-themed episode, and we can play some games like Medieval and I got another horror game, Callisto Protocol, and things of that nature. All right, and then last but not least, one that I'm really upset that I don't have a visual aid, because I won an auction for 1 and 2 for 99 cents, and then the damn seller ghosted me because. I mean, the games aren't that expensive. It's probably $30 total that they're worth, but still, I was pissed. And that is the Max Payne series, which I knew nothing about until my buddy, like, I knew of the games, obviously. They just looked like GTA clones, but with slow down bullet physics. But then I saw my buddy Avalanche Jared's video about Remedy Games, the people who made Alan Wake, and I didn't realize they were also the people who made the first 2 Max Paynes. After seeing that and hearing all this praise about the first 2 games, because the third one wasn't made by Remedy. The third one was made in-house by Rockstar. Because I thought it was a Rockstar property. It was actually originally made by Remedy, and then they sold the rights to Rockstar, and they used that money to make Alan Wake. So it's really interesting. If you want to know more, check out Avalanche Jared's video. I think he put an hour and a half video about Alan Wake and all the different versions, because he's a freaking psychopath. But yes, I was looking forward to checking out Max Payne 1 and 2, another PS2 era series that I didn't ever play. And unfortunately, the guy just ghosted me. I got my 99 cents back. I think I paid $10 for shipping, so the shipping was where he was trying to get me. Still $10 for 2 complete in box games, one of which was worth 20. Great deal. Didn't work out. But yes, those are some franchises I have 0 experience with. And the one I'm probably going to jump on the soonest would be Max Payne if I can ever find some copies. But yeah, let me know about some franchises you have 0 experience with. Let me know if you like this video. Let me know if I'm my assumptions and my knee-jerk reactions are accurate on any of these, or if you would recommend me checking out something over the other. I mean, another one I have no experience with is the Genesis version of Shadowrun. There, I beat you to it, Magnus. You know how to bring it up. But anyways, as always, it is such a pleasure getting to be here every day or every Tuesday with you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for subscribing. As a reminder, I put out a new video every Tuesday. I do have a Patreon if you'd like to support the channel more. And if you have any suggestions or any tips or anything at all, please comment. I love every one of you. It is so nice to have you here, to see all the growth, to see all the old videos getting extra views, or seeing ones I put out 6 months still getting views. It's so heartening, and it definitely makes me just, keeps reinforcing what I'm doing here. So thank you all again. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.